Death Note. It's a really popular series, but as many of you may or may not know, it is owned by Shonen Jump. And when you typically think of Shonen Jump, you typically would think of action adventure stuff like One Piece, Bleach, Naruto, DBZ, Shaman King, Katekyo Hitman Reborn, that kind of thing. And Death Note's more psychological than action. There's barely any action. There's the only scene that comes to mind when I think of like action would probably be the fight between L and Light up in Misa's room. But anyways, Shonen Jump rarely does anything like this, and I was actually surprised that I would like it for two reasons. Most of the time, when Shonen Jump does something they're not normally good at, I don't like it because it's either not very clever or it ends up failing, so I don't get to see the whole thing. But that's not the way Death Note is. Death Note got a proper ending, and it was a really good ending, in my opinion. And as a One Piece fan, people told me I was gonna hate it, but I actually loved it. I think it's great. I think everyone needs to watch Death Note. At least if you're thinking about it, you should, because it's really really good. For the most part, it's more psychological. So if you're the kind of person that needs, guns blasting everywhere and people punching the living daylights out of each other, this might not be the best show for you. But for me, it was awesome because it was a lot of thinking, and I'm pretty good at thinking. Thought was one of the things that just kept this show going is because you kept going. Okay, what's gonna happen now? How is L or Light gonna get out of this situation? Because the way the game is set up is it's basically a game of cat versus mouse, except for unlike Tom and Jerry, where you know who the cat is and you know who the mouse is. The cat and the mouse keep switching, and who puts who in a situation. Because basically the situation is whoever finds out the other's identity first wins. The true identity. Both their identities are hidden. Um, which it's really clever how they are hidden. Your basic two sides are L and Light. The side of Light is see what happens in the show is Light is a typical high school student he's got straight A's, girls are all over him, and he's just bored with life. And then one day, a death god named Ryuk drops a death note into the human world. It's all like, "Oh look, I've dropped my death note on accident." That's the way he's acting when he's up in the Shinigami world. But anyways, he did it on purpose. He drops the death note just because he's completely bored and wants to see what would happen. And Light picks it up, and he there couldn't have been a better person to pick up the Death Note. Light is clever. Light is cunning. He's a megalomaniac, basically. And he's very when he's using the Death Note, his policy with it is, I'm going to kill all the people that do wrong. He starts out by killing the heavy criminals, and it actually almost makes he almost considers himself a hero or a god, actually. More so in the anime than the manga. In the manga, he kind of tones down the I am God stuff. But anyways, and you start to at first you kind of like what Light's doing, but then you kind of see that he's just killing off people without even knowing whether they committed the crime or not. 20% of the people he kills, I'm sure, are actually innocent. But anyways, and he goes under the alias Kira or Killer, and people start praising him as a god just like he thought they would. And then your other side is the side of L. L is this detective who's extremely cunning. He looks like he hasn't seen the sun, but maybe once every 20 days, in my opinion. But he's just this kind of deluded character who has all these strange quirks. Like, he's got a huge sweet tooth, and he's also got this habit of crouching or sitting improperly, and he doesn't wear socks, and all this other strange quirks. L is extremely cunning too. Because it's a battle of intelligence and not so much brawn, the series really is quite different from anything else I've seen from Shonen Jump, like I've said before. Um, and because it's more battles of brain than brawn, you're gonna get a lot of exposition. Because I mean, you see, there not only does the Death Note itself has a lot of rules, but the characters themselves go deep into what happened and trying to figure out what's going on. And if you're not the kind of person that likes exposition where characters just sit down, lay everything on the table, and explain everything that's been going on, then you will not like this show. I personally am a big fan of exposition, so this was really great. Um, what ends up happening though as the show goes on is the whole world starts to get caught up in this um, L versus Kira thing going on. What ends up happening is, the way I see it, the world ends up getting divided into three groups. You got the people that support Kira for killing off all these criminals. You know, they're a menace to society. Life is going to become so much peaceful now, so much more peaceful now, that everybody who ever committed a crime is done. And now that people are dying, they're afraid to commit crimes because they know they're going to get killed. In fact, there's even a part in the show where a man's on TV and he's on trial, and it's airing his trial live, and they're about to announce his name. He's like, "Hey, stop! Anything but my real name. Please do not announce my real name," because at this point in the series, they figure out that Kira is more of a media god at this point, and they know all it takes is a face and a name to kill. And sometimes all it takes is a face. Um, so the whole world gets caught up in it, and there's those people that support Kira, and then there's also people that don't like what he's doing but are afraid to do anything about it. That's, I would say, most of the population is afraid of him. They don't like what he's doing, but they're afraid. And then there's a select few who are willing to stand up and fight Kira. Um, and that brings me to one of my questions. Should criminals instantly be killed? Because that's a big debate in the whole series, is whether, you know, if you do a crime and you know you're committing a crime and you know what you're doing is wrong, should you be killed for doing it? That's a big debate that this series has caused, because everybody who ever commits any crime is killed. So everyone has to become hardworking, good citizens, or else you're dead. And my honest opinion is everyone has their own reasons for doing anything. So I honestly don't think that people should be killed just for doing anything. And I mean this as an honest opinion, because there's a point in the series too where L's talking with Ryuk, and he says, well, what if a teacher would have asked in a classroom, should bad people die? Every student would answer the same way, and he's absolutely correct. But I want you guys, because you're online right now, it doesn't matter. On the comment section, go ahead and say whatever you think. Should criminals die? Go ahead. Because I actually want to see what some people think. And this also brings up, within the same episode, Ryuk tells him, well, if you kill all the bad people, you'll be the only bad person left. And people interpret this many different ways. I personally interpret it as he'll be the only person alive, because I think everybody, no matter who you are, does something bad in their life. And yes, within this statement, I'm saying I have done bad things before. I think everyone does bad things in their life. And so, if he were to kill all the bad people, he would be the only person left on Earth. That's how I interpret it. How do you guys interpret it? Most people interpret as he'll be the only bad person left because he killed the rest of them. and the rest of the people are good except for him because he's bad because he killed people, which makes him bad. Because murder's one of the things he's killing people for, which ironically he's becoming the thing he hates.